We're talking about fantasy's best girl, Lady, from The Black Company. The Black Company is my favorite fantasy series of all time. The books mean so much to me. The universe is like, my God, it's just so unbelievably important to me and intimate to me as well. The iconography of Glenn Cook's writing of all the different characters and all the different settings and all the themes, like, to me, it's an absolute gothic playground of philosophy, of psychology, of sexuality, of morality. It means just so much to me. And the lady is one of the characters that means the most. Sleepy and Soulcatcher, those are my favorite characters in all the Black Company. But the lady, she's a massive reason why I fell in love with this series. And you could argue that Lady is the primary protagonist, that, or at least that she's the main character of this story, going from primary antagonist to an anti-hero in a couple pretty large and significant ways. The lady is the most beautiful woman in the world. She starts off as a fucking genocidal dictator, as a ruler, and then she goes on to become this almost entirely unpredictable outsider hero. I think that the Black Company, at its most penetrating, at its most effective, is an extremely long investigation, examination of the psychosexual components that seem to provide suicidal, depressed, cynical men with their forward momentum. I think that the Black Company is about the process of deification that hopeless men will project onto women in times that are entirely hopeless and cosmically pessimistic. And I think personally that each of these kind of deified women, they symbolize something unique and different to like every part of the the desperate, self-destructive male. For instance, in Soulcatcher, I see psychopathy deified. I see mania made made unstoppable, made godlike. I see mischief itself within Soulcatcher, uh, deified, sanctified, made demonically, satanically holy, and that's why I love Soulcatcher so much. And through Darling, rebellion is kind of codified within her physicality, within like the concept of her as a woman, and of course Arcana and Shook Rat have come to be deified by the novel itself from a well inside of a drowned city in Lies Weeping. But Lady can represent a lot of different things. When you're reading The Black Company, the very first book, I'll always call it one of the most mysterious novels ever. And I kind of want to call it romantically or at least sexually mysterious. Now, I've finally watched a couple of Black Company videos from other booktubers, and gotta say, I don't like most of them because most of them spend like 10 minutes telling you that it's just so bleak and so dark with no reprieve, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? One Eye and Goblin are there from the very beginning. Goblin and One Eye I always thought were like really funny, and shit, my hair is always constantly mad. It's difficult. Okay, no, wait. What was I talking about? What was I saying? Oh, but I also find it like deeply romantic and deeply erotic, and I consider those two qualities to be kind of warm. And I think that's what gives the lady her dangerous like sexual appeal in the very first Black Company book. I love how mysterious it is, and I love that Croker is obsessed with the lady and has like a psychosexual connection with her, fantasizes about her. uh, And I love that Soul Catcher is constantly there going like, dude, she's the kind of woman who would bite steel. All right, she's the worst kind of fuck in the world. And that's of course when Soul Catcher is being the absolute androgynous mommy dommy with her thousand different voices, constantly wearing her Black Moran mask and this tight black leather cat suit. Like, I think that we are walking through the forest in the Black Company, not just of all the different compasses of cracked morality systems, but we're also walking past all of the trees, all of the icons of what makes up sexual attraction, about what self-destructive men find themselves unreasonably attracted to, and what they fantasize about. So with Croker fantasizing about the lady, I think it's beautifully poetic because he's kind of romanticizing the fact that he is a soldier, that he is a grunt doing work for some beautiful ideal, some beautiful idea of a woman in this tower at Charm. He is he's romanticizing the state itself. And through the first books of the North, through the first trilogy, Glenn Cook is actually providing us with some of the most confrontational political philosophy that I've ever read, because he's like examining in depth the relationship that the state has with the soldier, that the soldier has with the state, and with the state being absolutely being absolutely tyrannical, but embodied in your deepest, greatest, most enduring desire, like the desirability afforded to the state by the physicality, by the sensuality, by the allure of the woman, by the lady, is amazing. And then Croker kind of being all of us, seduced by it. But of course, Cook doesn't end there, right? Because the grunt is able to change that. The grunt is able to woo the lady, and the lady, all of the most powerful people in the Black Company, the Taken, the lady, they are just as fascinated and intoxicated by a grunt like Croker as Croker is intoxicated by and infatuated with them. So I don't find this series all that bleak, or maybe I'm weird. I think that grim dark fantasy makes me happy. I don't find the books that bleak. The depressing things happen. It's a cold universe, but at the center of it is the absolute warmth of all of my teenage fantasies, being the lady or Soul Catcher. Like at the absolute center is Arcana and Shookrat. At the absolute center are these women that I'm like obsessed with, are these women that represent different facets of my manic personality system. So I don't really find it that dark. I don't know. I like dark fantasy so much. I'm currently reading the Prince of Nothing trilogy, and I'm absolutely adoring it. I'm adoring it so much. I don't know. I think that positive fantasy or more traditional fantasy feels like a goofy goober fucking lie or something. I do like some of it, but most of the time it feels just so fucking hokey and corny. Whereas like the Black Company can come with a fair amount of camp. Like there's a fair amount of camp involved with the villainy for sure, involved with some of the other aspects like flying carpets and things like that. But camp, I do think, is a characteristic of these psychosexual investigations that Glenn Cook just fearlessly explores. Like, I don't think that you will love the Black Company if you're not like entirely mystified by the Senjak women, by Soulcatcher and the lady. I think it will fail for you if you don't find yourself completely invested in them. I think it'll absolutely fail because I think they reveal a lot to the reader about themselves, about their hangups, about their about their own self-destructive erotic ideations. So I think that the lady is one of the most important characters in all of literature, and she's certainly one of my absolute favorite characters. And I think she's fantasy's best girl because if you truly interact with her, if you truly let yourself become as obsessed with her as Croker does, what you end up learning about yourself is huge. Because as I've been talking about, I think that these different women represent huge, mammoth things about not only the sexual identity of the reader, of the obsessive, but also of the moral identity of the reader or the obsessive. And through Soulcatcher, through the lady, through most of the women featured in the Black Company, having a crush on the lady is like electroshock therapy in grim dark speak. Having a crush on the lady is like electroshock therapy. So let's do what we normally do here. And what we normally do is read a little bit of the wiki to get those creative, insightful ideas flowing. And I'm going to read a little bit of it, just basically the introduction, because we don't want to get like too in depth into everything. And I am planning on doing that Black Company book club. This is a video. Every video I make about the Black Company is part of the Black Company book club. I'm just not sure because I know I said in another video that like I'm gonna have a schedule and everything, but my life's way too chaotic to have a fucking schedule for this. I'm the Soulcatcher simp. If you're concerned about Black Company content, don't be. I'm clearly locked into providing you at least one Black Company video a month. And I think over the course of this entire channel, we will reread every single Black Company book and spend a lot of time on each book. So we're going to save the specifics of what characters like Lady, Silent, Soulcatcher, One Eye do in each book to the books themselves. And we're going to spend these character studies really just talking about like their overall symbolism, right? Like the overall metaphor of their physical poetry. That's what we're going to do in this video. But welcome to the Black Company Book Club. I hope you enjoy your stay. Some feel the lady, newly risen from centuries in thrall, stands between humanity and evil. Some feel she is evil itself. Love that shit. The lady, born Dorothea Senjak, and we have to say we don't know for sure if that's her actual name. I think it's a cool name. I think the best part in the entire Black Company, or one of my favorite parts in the whole series, is when Silent breaks his vow of silence to speak Dorothea Senjak to the lady, her true name. It's such a huge, massive moment that is done in the Barrowlands in the White Rose. But these annals are written by Croker for the most part. There's obviously a book of Lady. Sleepy writes a book. Arcana and Shukrat are writing books right now. And Sleepy wrote as well. And One Eye, too, tried his hand at it and failed miserably in a really funny way. But since Croker's the one who wrote The White Rose and stuff like that, you would think that he'd protect his the woman he loves. You would think he would protect the lady's true name. So we don't know for sure if her name is actually Dorothea Senjak or if that's like just the name that Croker used to keep lady's true name safe. We have to consider these annals aren't entirely reliable. We have to accept that the analysts, the writers of the Black Company books aren't entirely reliable. And I think that actually is the best way to read the Book of Lady, which is Dreams of Steel. And it's one of my favorite Black Company books because I love being in her psychology. I love how unreliable she is as a narrator. And I love that even through her unreliability, we can see like the truth of the situations that happen there. Oh, and she is so vicious in that book. Like even her writing herself in her idealized form at her idealized best in the annals, she's still like a fucking mad woman. She's still just completely unreasonable. I love Dreams of Steel so much. She's like, she's one of the ultimate. I suppose you can call her anti-hero at that point. She's one of the ultimate fantasy characters. The lady was the ruler of much of the northern continent for generations, first alongside her husband, the Dominator, for about a century, and later as empress in her own right. She was an extremely powerful sorceress, a brilliant strategist, and a natural leader. Throughout her time in the North, four major milestones in her life were marked by passages of the supernatural Great Comet. And just like all amazing women, they seem to be intimately connected to esoteric portents, right? The lady had a hand in the history of the Black Company for decades, and she would establish every sort of relationship with the storied organization imaginable. Employer, enemy, ally, and after joining the group, analyst, lieutenant, and even captain. Her involvement with the company began when her sister Soul Catcher hired them to serve alongside her imperial forces in the war against the rebel armies of the Circle of 18. After tragically losing her ability to employ sorcery at the Battle of the Barrowland, she dropped her "the" honorific, becoming simply Lady, and departed her empire, never to return. In the southern continent, she became one of the few women to officially join the Black Company and would even marry its captain, Croker, to whom she had been attracted for years. Her child with him was kidnapped by the Cult of the Stranglers shortly after birth. She kept the company alive with indispensable leadership and inventions during the Shadow Masters' War, and was a key player in the final struggle against the dark goddess Kina. Now, there's some stuff to talk about there, I would say personally. Lies Weeping. Where is it? I love this book. Lies Weeping is becoming one of my favorite Black Company books, and it's a brand new one. It just came out last year. So we're learning a bit more about Lady through this book because even Croker, as Krokvetya, as Shvetya the New, is still just as obsessed with Lady as he's always been, and as hopefully as a reader, as you've always been as well. So Shvetya is this kind of like godlike figure, this steadfast guardian of the glittering the plane of glittering stone, and he has the ability to kind of traverse time itself, to explore time, to learn, and to even interact with the past, to be an observer. And so, what does he do? He spends a lot of his time looking at the early history of the domination. He watches the early times of the Dominator, just how evil Thud Brunch was, just like the evil shit, the sadistic shit that the Dominator would do. He would watch the Senjak, the little Senjak sisters, and try to figure out more about his wife. And over the course of that, he's kind of always there watching the lady. But the thing is, the Senjaks and the Dominator too, like they're powerful magic users. They're tapped into like the magical dimensions of our existence, of the human experience within the Black Company. So they know that something's watching them. They know there's another presence in the room, and sometimes they try to reject it, dispel the Croker presence, and other times they kind of just live with it. And Lady, as a little girl all the way up through her entire reign, not just with the domination but post domination, where we pick up during the Black Company, she kind of makes every decision, or at least it's implied in Lies Weeping that she's making every decision with the idea that there's some presence watching her, and it's Croker's presence, which would help to explain why Lady was so attracted to Croker, this simping fucking healer in the Black Company, this absolute nobody, because she had unknowingly been feeling his future presence, his future ghost had been haunting her entire life. The future ghost of Croker had been haunting her for her entire life, watching her, trying to learn more about her. And at that point, had already been her husband, been the father of her child, and has now assumed the role of steadfast guardian of the glittering plane, of the glittering stone. Something needs to be said about how masterfully Glenn Cook is able to retain these mysteries of the feminine divine. Something has to be said about that, because she's in every book apart from the Silver Spike. She is in every single book, and yet she still feels like she is clothed, draped in mystery upon mystery upon abstraction. I mean, because mystery is one of the most enduringly attractive qualities that any human being can possess. And the lady not only possesses the mystery that is capable, that has the capability of enrapturing men and readers for decades, for an eternity. She also has the drive, the will to collect as many possessions as possible. Like I think that she, a large part of her power, her symbolic power, is derived by how many men she can possess, how many hearts and minds she can possess. And in Lies Weeping, we actually are featuring a lady who is becoming more and more powerful, becoming as powerful as she used to be. And we're dealing with a very threatening, a very unpredictable, a lady that just gets more and more mysterious. I think that's the sign of a truly enduring fantasy character as well. In her youth, she may have been identified as Princess Bathdek, the central figure of the dubious domination era narrative. The dubious. They're all dubious, though. Come on, all the narratives are questionable. Found in Port of Shadows, which I really like. I really like that book. Evidently, she was given the nickname Kitten and Kaniko, Japanese for kitten, during her time in the Ghost Country. Yeah, she, dude, that's the thing I'm talking about. The fact that she was called Bathdek in the Port of Shadows story should go to show, should go to prove that none of these names that are featured within the Black Company books by any of the analysts are at all accurate or meant to be seen as completely correct. The lady, born Dorothea Senjak, was one of four daughters of Baron Senjak, a noble from an unspecified western kingdom. She claimed that her mother was the basis of the Sleeping Beauty legend, that her father took no pains seeking a cure for her ailment. Rather, he was content to let her sleep as she bore him daughters. Centuries later, the lady and her sister would spend years in similar slumbers, trapped inside both the Barrowland and then the cave of the ancients. Reminiscing about her mother, she would wonder if it were a curse that the women in her family, that the women in her family were destined to spend much of their adult lives in enchanted slumbers. And I do like that a lot too. So like Grimdark, at its best is a rejection of certain traditional fantasy motifs and structures, right? We're uninterested in the Joseph Campbell stupidity that is the hero's journey. We're more interested in deconstructions. We're more interested in pessimism. We're more interested in the darker textures of the human experience than more traditional fantasy. So I love that through the lady, we are looking at a more satanic Sleeping Beauty or a weaponized Sleeping Beauty. Weaponized is certainly a huge dimension of the lady, of that kind of sexuality, of that kind of crush, of that kind of love, of that kind of attractive, of that kind of romantic fixation, idolization, the weaponization of all of that. All of that. It's your fucking wet dream given a goddamn bazooka. That's the lady. That's perfect. That's the lady. It's incredible. And Grimdark being kind of a rejection of more traditional fantasy elements, the lady is one of the most like fascinating components of the Black Company. If we're looking at it as a rejection, as an inversion, as a different spin, as something wildly different from what we're used to, the Sleeping Beauty in the Black Company, she has a lot of bite. Soulcatcher would say she's a type of woman, the type of Sleeping Beauty that would bite steel. Like she has bite. This Sleeping Beauty will fuck you up. Little is known about Dorothea's childhood, and the veracity of the information that was uncovered is questionable. It is certain that she and her three sisters, Ardath, Silith, and Credence Senjak, rivaled one another in their beauty. And I love the early Senjak stories. I love that it's Soulcatcher and the lady despise each other so much. I live for that rivalry. I live for those competing uh, systems of both eroticism and power over the minds of the Black Company, over the worlds of Taglios, over the worlds of the Glittering Stone, over the worlds of charm and the Barrowland, over the entire fantasy framework. Because obviously, what they're offering, the weaponization of desire that they are offering, and the perversion of certain networks within the fantasy genre, endlessly fucking riveting. They all apparently inherited a powerful supernatural sexual enchantment. It is also known that they swapped or obscured their true names, which was a typical practice employed by those who sought to protect their sorcery powers. Dorothea's sister, who became the Taken, known as Soulcatcher, and I am the reader who became known as the Taken Soulcatcher simp, told Croker once that the lady murdered her twin sister. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Subsequent details suggest the victim was Ardath. However, the genealogies that Croker and Tracker translated state that Dorothea was the youngest of the daughters and did not mention a twin. Later information revealed that the histories were half-truths, promoted by the Lady and Soulcatcher themselves to protect their true names. And you have to look at all these Black Company books as half-truths as well. Perhaps the only other recorded detail of Dorothea's early youth was that she was not present when her father, Baron Senjak, brought her three sisters, Ardath, Silith, and Credence, to a gigantic aristocratic party during which everyone's names and titles were announced by heralds and scribbled by a record keeper. The paper records from this otherwise insignificant event would prove to be fateful about 4 centuries later at the Battle of the Barrowland. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think that, like, Croker and Silent, they got the lady's true name correctly. I just don't think that Dorothea Senjak, the name written down in the actual annal of the White Rose, is the true name. I think that's also another obscurity, but this time done out of love because Croker wants to honor the lady properly. In her youth, she married a powerful wizard, and the couple staged their deaths, possibly more than once, to distance themselves from their family histories and their true names. They came to be known as the Lady and the Dominator. And can we get a hell fucking yeah to Glenn Cook for making the lady the central antagonist of the Books of the North and never having to worry about this fucking dumb chud, the Dominator? I mean, we are worried about him coming back, but the lady's villainy, the lady's presence as the primary antagonist is never challenged by the Dominator. Right, and the fact that the lady is desirable and has a couple warm qualities, I would say, or at least like that's so disturbing. Like you're attracted by the warm qualities of sadism, so you have to admit that sadism has warm qualities, warm definitions to it, or at least a warm outline. I'm just saying, let's give Glenn Cook several hell yeahs for not choosing this like massive fucking dominator sorcerer as a primary antagonist, but rather this woman, rather this sleeping beauty. That's an inversion. That's a clever subversion. That's an awesome thing for this series to do. And I don't think it gets enough credit for that at all. I think a normal fantasy writer from the 80s would certainly have the Dominator be revealed to be the ultimate baddie. And I wouldn't have liked that. I wouldn't have liked that at all. Here, the Dominator never rises from the fucking barrow. He never rises from his sleep. Now, of course, in books like The White Rose and The Silver Spike, like the whole impetus of those books is keeping him there, because if he rises, it'll be 10 times worse. But that's fine. That's in theory. That's in theory. And he never does get to rise. The lady, I mean, geez. As a fantasy villain, she's one of the most culturally significant, and people need to start viewing her that way. Their loveless marriage was a political alliance, and it was never consummated. They never knew one another's true name, so neither could directly control the other. Now, I don't buy that it was never consummated. I, I think that Dominator smashed Lady. Obviously, like with any series that you love, there's going to be a part of it that you find disagreeable or eye roll inducing. And the idea that the lady is this virginal beauty, I think directly conflicts with all of the other reasons why she's so sexy or why I find her so sexy. Like, I like that Soul Catcher isn't that, right? I like that Soul Catcher fucking doesn't care who she fucks and doesn't even fuck that often, but the fact that she's not a virginal beauty. I never saw the lady as a virginal beauty. And I think that's a weird kind of fantasy that a lot of fantasy readers who are men kind of have. Like, oh, they never fucked, then it's fine. Like, no, I want them to have fucked, right? Like, I want you to know, Croaker, that you're competing with the most masculine fucking symbol of absolute authority in this dark, grim, dark universe. I want you to feel pitifully small in comparison. I want that to happen. I think that adds additional layers. But luckily, since the fucking, like we've covered here, the Black Company books are unreliable and manifest, you can kind of have your own headcanon about certain things. This series of books is just beautiful. She and her husband orchestrated the defeat and capture of their 10 most powerful sorcerer adversaries. That's so fucking cool. I love the 10 who were taken. I love the 10 who were taken. They are oh god. One of the greatest things when you're first getting into the Black Company is learning about the 10 who were taken. Because like I think that they're perversions of all these long-standing fantasy tropes and archetypes, absolute satanic perversions, and it's so much fun to grapple with philosophically and psychologically. And just on an entertainment scale, the 10 who were taken are just through the fucking roof. Of course, Soul Catcher's leading the charge, but you got Stormbringer, Limper, Shifter, fucking like Howler. They're all so fucking cool. The Dominator used the horrible right of taking to transform these rivals into the 10 who were taken, enslaved enforcers. The period of the domination, which lasted for numerous generations, was remembered as an age of evil when the Dominator enforced his will on his subjects with the lady by his side. Yeah, like I'm not gonna separate the lady from the carnage, from the genocidal fucking lunacy that the maniac domination was known for. I like her as an intimate part of that because it truly adds a lot to the moral lens of the Black Company. The lady is closely associated with the figure known as Princess Bathdek Senjak in Port of Shadows. In a Domination-era narrative of questionable historical accuracy, Bathdek was kidnapped by a mysterious necromancer known as Papa. Yeah, I have a whole video on Port of Shadows. Go watch that video. We go into it quite a bit. 370 years after the end of the domination, a wizard named Bowmans attempted to make contact with the lady during her imprisonment. Oh my god, dude. Like, her powers of sexual enchantment, it's just so fucking unreal. She can make you absolutely devoted. She can make you pathetically devoted to her from the fucking grave, buried in the earth. Sleeping Beauty, well, Sleeping Beauty can make you completely drunk, can intoxicate you entirely without moving a muscle, make you a lifelong sexual acolyte and moral deviant. Bowman's goal was to learn arcane secrets from her, and he believed that he knew her true name, which could be used to protect himself and to compel her, unaware that she was subtly guiding the hidden organization of the Resurrectionists the whole time, including Bowman's own son, Stancil. He accidentally played a role in liberating her and the 10 who were taken exactly 10 passages of the Great Comet 370 years after her burial there. Somehow she left her husband trapped in the Great Barrow to build an empire of her own, bucking gaslight gatekeep girl boss, right? Is that how we do the meme in these parts? After wiping out the remaining resurrectionists, root and branch, to ensure the Dominator remained imprisoned, she and the 10 constructed the imposing tower at Charm, amassed huge armies, and bred the Black Stallions. The Taken marched forth from there and reconquered the old territories of her husband in the Consolidation Wars. Then they expanded new lands. Eventually, the rebel rose up against the lady and her Taken. They rallied around the banner of the long dead White Rose. They were commanded by a group of wizards who called themselves the Circle of 18, and their strength was in the east, especially in giant border cities like Rust. The fighting grew fiercer, and the Circle managed some impressive victories over the 10 and their imperial armies. And this is a pretty long wiki page, as you can imagine, because she did a lot of substantial things. But we're not going to do all of that. This is more like an overview. I think there's a lot of fascinating ways to view the lady. I think she's one of the most philosophically important characters in all of fantasy. Like the absolute totem of the totality of philosophical expression in dark fantasy, because we can look at her through all these different kinds of lenses. Obviously, I think we can look at her as the state and really investigate the relationship that the state has with its subjects, the oppressed has with their oppressor, that the abuser has with the abused, and of course we by and large are the subjects, are the abused, are the oppressed. And we can kind of see if there's some sort of damaged, demonic, erotic quality in that dynamic, because there almost most assuredly has to be. And I'm not, eroticism does not imply some sort of positive form of elation or release. I'm speaking almost satanically here. I think that there is this kinky thread that is part of the dynamic structure between the oppressed and the oppressor, between the state and the subject, the abuser and the abused. There has to be some sort of kink involved there. Entire BDSM subcultures have been founded upon this exact psychological thread. And through there you're able to really examine your own relationship with the state. Like there has to be something sexual there as well, because we're also looking at the philosophy of objectification, the philosophy of sexualization, especially if we're objectifying state structures and sexualizing state power through the lady. Personally, I think the most impressive thing that Glenn Cook does with Lady is when she drops the title and becomes Lady, because there we do a lot of demystification, but at the same time she never loses her enduring mysteries. Okay, this is where it gets most fascinating, because he's doing poetic deicide here through a character like Lady, because we see that when she loses the deification, when a god loses that which makes them godlike, do they truly lose the qualities that we as normal people find most divine? I would say, I guess not, right? Because I think that what makes a god most godlike is the enigmatic mysteries that envelop them, the atmosphere of mystery that envelops their presence, their being. So what happens when the lady loses her insane magical abilities, loses her deification status? She still remains entirely mysterious. And then you realize that mysteries aren't intrinsic to God, right? An all powerful woman, well, she's still all woman afterwards. So by doing that, we are demystifying what we find so unbelievably intoxicating about what we consider to be divine or godlike. Because mystery is not just the property of gods. Mystery is the property of women, of certain very beautiful women. Mystery is the watchword mystery belongs to femininity, not divinity. And I think that that's a huge lesson to a lot of people reading this book, because I think it tells you about the dangers of deifying the wrong things, of deifying anything really, but especially with women. It's not that they are gods, it's that they're women. Lady to me is fascinating, and I love how vulnerable she is, even in her own Dreams of Steel book, where we can't really believe in a whole lot of it. She still will be entirely open about how she was effortlessly outsmarted by Narayan Singh and the Deceivers, and how her fucking baby was stolen from her immediately after birth to become a vessel for an awful god named Kina. And then after fucking that, dude, after that, oh, Lady takes on a whole new dimension, because now she has truly become mother, and she has war on her mind. And like the stuff that she is confronted with is insane. She's confronted with like, do I have to kill my daughter? How many people do I have to kill? I think that she has a philosophy that would make Nietzsche blush. Okay, she has a personal philosophy that would make Albert Camus and Sartre and Guy Debord, Foucault, all run for the fucking hills in terror. She has a philosophy that would make Schopenhauer cry. Her personal philosophy, to me, is just so fucking robust and hard that that it makes this character just that much more unbelievably complex. I would argue that not only is she the main character, the true main character of the Black Company, but she's also easily the most sophisticated, complex, multifaceted, multidimensional. Not just in the Black Company, but arguably in all of fantasy literature. The amount of dimensions to her character, I think, can be overwhelming if you're trying to analyze her, because there's 1,000 different places to look at. Even look at her as a mother. As a mother, all right? And like maybe we can get slightly postmodern in our reading here, because obviously you can spend a long time viewing her as a mother to Boo Boo, the daughter of night, and there's a lot of complexities there. But how about the mother of grimdark? How about the mother of dark fantasy itself? And how she treats her offspring, or how that philosophy of the lady has been kind of bastardized by future writers, or how the torch of the lady, how the light of the lady has been kept bright by future writers, about how she mothered a certain kind of cosmic pessimism that has truly provided the adrenaline to dark fantasy ever since. I love the lady. I'm entirely intoxicated. I am high off the wonderful, noxious fumes of her character. I think she's outrageously fucking complicated. The second lady showed up in Lies Weeping, once again, I felt fucking drunk. All right, like this character has so much power. So much power. It just leaps off the page. Always does leap off the page. Even when she's just a fucking fantasy, a deified pinup that never leaves the tower at charm. She's constantly in your brain. Then when she joins the company, becoming its captain, becoming a mother, she becomes intimate. She becomes someone that you can touch, but you're still afraid to. The lady, the lady is the idealized woman of fantasy perfected. That's what the lady is. Wow, yeah, the lady means everything to me. I hope this character study at least got you thinking certain things, and maybe thinking things in a different way than you normally have, or, like, maybe you're thinking really interesting things, like in response to what I'm saying, but you're disagreeing with me, and that's totally cool and fine. That's what the Black Company Book Club is all about. I shared what I had to say. Now, in the comments, share your take on Lady, because she might be this erotic Rorschach test at the end of the day. We might all look at her and spend so much time with her for so long that we all have different connections to her, different ways of talking about her and describing her. We all have different ways to connect to her. That might be absolutely true, and I'm curious, how do you view the Lady? Is it similar to me? Is it entirely different? Like, I'm sure there's a whole swath of fucking readers who never warmed up to her, who always thought she was just evil with nothing to her. I call those people unimaginative and vanilla, but still, I'm sure those people exist, and maybe you're one of them, and maybe you can defend that point. I don't know. I don't think people read The Black Company without some sort of deep curiosity with evil. And I think that any curiosity with evil romantic will have a romantic fringe to that curiosity. I think that's absolutely true. Because like evil's not just taboo, it should be the moral opposite of all of us. But the moral opposite of all of us does have to have some sort of excitement to it. Like even that which repulses you entirely should probably have some sort of kinetic charge to it that may not be like entirely sexual by definition, but certainly some of the properties of eroticism could be afforded to that kind of repulsion. Because I think when we talk about like sexual philosophy, like sexual readings of fantasy books, we only focus on the objectification part, so we never focus truly on like all of the negative things that could go into that. And I think Lady represents not only the positive parts, but in more ways than positive, she represents the dark side of sexual obsession, of sexual objectification, and certainly the dark side of being so curious about evil that you find yourself turned on by it in subconscious ways. Like through Lady, we're able to do stuff that most philosophers can only dream. The, the philosophical magical incantations that the Lady performs, they're one of a kind and they're remarkable, and they can scar you if you let them. If you let her scar you, she will. And I think that all Black Company veterans like me have at least a scar or two that the Lady can lay claim to. We're all under her spell in a way. Love you, Lady. I love you for watching this video. It's a confrontational video, I get that. This video, it's difficult to talk about the Lady if you want to be truthful in your analysis without sounding like you're sanitizing it. And I didn't sanitize anything in this video. All right, we talked about some heavy stuff here, some heavier kind of stuff that I don't think Fantasy BookTube likes to dwell on. I love dwelling on it. I'm the Soul Catcher simp, baby. It's in my DNA. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.